You all to this morning's webinar. We are very excited to spend some time with you this morning talking about what we call the power of yet. We are your facilitators. My name is Romaine Jones-Wise, and my lovely colleague is,
Elena Van Kirk.
and the two of us are with Exude Human Capital. And for those that don't know, Exude Human Capital, we are not your typical consulting firm. Since our founding in 2006, we've been on a mission to transform organizations by connecting the dots between human resources, leadership development, and inclusion and belonging. We provide dynamic solutions in HR outsourcing, compensation strategies, strategic advisory, organizational and cultural assessments, DEIB, advisory, training, coaching, and leadership development programs. I mean, we do a lot, but we enjoy what we do. We partner with our clients, and this morning, my colleague and I are excited to talk to you about the power of yet. This is a great concept that we both believe in that has the potential to transform and unlock the full potential in your teams. So, Elena, if you want to introduce yourself, I will pause for a second.
Thanks, Ro. Good morning, everyone. Elena Van Kirk, Principal Consultant at Exude Human Capital, and so excited to be with you here today. Um, Both Ro and I have been with Exude for a number of years and in the HR space for a number of years, but most recently, we've really been able to put our heads together and design and build and bring to life some new concepts and really be able to put a new spin on some old concepts that have been changing the way employees work and changing the way that leaders lead with our clients and out in the world. And so very excited to be here with you all this morning.
Great. Well, how about we dive in?
Absolutely. Our agenda for this morning, we're going to talk a little bit about the challenge of development in the workplace. We'll transition a little bit into how to identify opportunities for growth. This is really going to be the foundation of the power of yet. And then we're really going to walk you through our three-step yet reframe to really be able to push past some of those obstacles and turn yet into small wins. And then we're going to give you some real practical tools to be able to take away with you in coaching and bring back to your teams. So let's zoom out for a minute. I think it's probably all a little bit common knowledge that there's absolutely a demand for growth and development in the across industries, right? In the world of human resources, in the world of talent management. And organizations have absolutely understood that this is a need. Employees are asking for it. I want to grow. I want to earn more money. I want the promotion. I want to do work that's valuable and meaningful. I want to make a difference. And so how do I continue to grow and how do I do that? Employees are very interested in it, which is why most organizations have identified that learning and development is really a key strategy in growing and retaining their workforce. But even though everyone says this is really important to us, a lot of organizations are still struggling to make that happen. So this is a survey that was done by LinkedIn Learning that really showed that, 84% of employees agree that learning adds purpose to their work. And what I thought was really interesting and really underscores the need for learning is that almost 70% of employees said learning helps them adapt through change. We are always in constant state of change. And I know change management is a huge struggle for a lot of our clients and organizations that we work with. And I think identifying that that's such a critical opportunity for us to be able to support our employees in navigating change by providing learning just underscores the need for this. At the same time, when we think about organizational readiness and how prepared are we to deliver learning strategies, I think this is where there's a huge gap. So what I think is super important is if you look at this, 45% of employees say that they lack support in learning and development, and 50% of managers say that they lack proper support for career development. So, how can we expect managers to support employees if they themselves don't feel supported? I think when we look at these statistics, again, we know that this is super critical, but I think it also just creates a challenge in how do we bring this to fruition? How do we naturally create learning and development programs or learning and development strategies? Because not every organization is going to have the infrastructure for a program. How do we create strategies that actually move the needle? And I think you're probably thinking about, well, investing in a formal L&D program. But these are the kinds of organizations that have the capital and the capacity to really invest in a formal L&D program. These are the organizations that have the ability to build a centralized L&D function. But most of the organizations that Ro and I work with, they're not this big. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the capital. And a centralized function doesn't necessarily fit their business structure, fit their organizational model. What they need is something that makes learning proximate to employees, proximate to managers. That's decentralized. That's living in the fabric of the day to day. And this is really what we started thinking about when we came up with Yet.
It's three letters. YET. We all know the letter. All see it. We can all spell it. But this three-letter word can have such a profound impact on how we remove barriers. For all of those that like background, yet is a word or phrase that modifies or qualifies an adjective, verb, or adverb, or a word group expressing the relation to time and a place. It can be about circumstances, manners, and what happens is it refers to a time which starts in the past and continues up to the present, but it has this perceived negative inference or connotation. When we think of the word yet, it's usually us waiting either for our significant other to go to dinner and they're running behind, and you have reservations and you're yelling across the house, "Are you ready yet?" Or this past week, we had a ton of rain, and every time I looked outside, it was still raining, and it was rain, rain, and yet more rain. But what happens when we look at yet as a powerful tool to change how we say and do things? Case in point, if I told Elena right now, Elena, I don't know how to ride a bike. Knowing Elena, she would say, Ro, you don't know how to ride a bike yet. Because it's the growth mindset. It's understanding that although I don't have the knowledge now, I do have the capability to learn in future state. And with yet, it really helps us bring these small wins into play and helps reframe how we look at some of the barriers and things that come up where development is concerned.
One of the ways that this really became a topic of conversation for us, we were preparing for, I've got some type of auto advance going on here. I apologize. We were preparing for an event where we were talking about multi-generational workforce and specifically communication in the multi-generational workforce. And what we were talking about is that Yet is also a really great opportunity to, and it's a really great way to overcome assumptions or biases that we may make about people. Oh, well, they're not really great at systems and technology yet,
Mhm.
or they don't want to dig in and do the hard work yet. So that was really the launching point for us to really start to explore how do we turn this negative phrase into such a positive and a simple opportunity? And how do we use it to uncover more opportunities across organizations, teams, and workplaces? And so, as we really explored that, what we started to look at is these are those traditional barriers to, you know, formal development. Do we have access to training? Are we aware, and do we know how to successfully navigate unconscious bias? And so not all organizations have unlimited opportunities for advancement. So when we think about some of these traditional barriers, and then if you layer this with that expectation that we have to develop our employees, we have to develop our employees, this feels like a really long and burdensome and challenging, overwhelming road, especially for organizations that don't have the infrastructure and the scale of those formal learning and development programs. How am I supposed to tackle this as me, a manager? I became a manager because I'm really good at doing the thing that I'm now managing. Chances are I didn't become a manager because I happen to be really skilled at, coaching and developing others. We wish that that were the world, and that's the world we're going to get to. But I think for a lot of organizations, we know that that's not currently how it is. So when we think about at what point are we teaching leaders how to teach, this is also really a great way to infuse yet in your organization.
So we have a three-step yet reframe. Very simple, not overwhelming at all. But the three steps are: one, naming the barrier. We have to be able to name the challenge so we know how to address it. And then once we do that, we need to identify the levers. Is this really a person's ability to do the work? Is this their effort? Is it the strategy? Are there barriers in place that are impeding their ability to perform? And then the third step is figuring out a time-bound next step. Now, the thing that I enjoy so much about this YET framework is that the time-bound next step is not your traditional 30, 60, 90-day goal. Excuse me. We're talking about what is a small win that we can take in the next 7 to 14 days to start to build momentum, to start to energize our employees so that they can see some type of progress. And even for leaders that are taking on the task of leading and managing people, because they're two different things. That's another webinar for another day. Um, you now have the capability to see how you show up for your team and give them direction in a smaller dose so it doesn't become that traditional, overwhelming, administratively burdensome, cumbersome experience with learning and development and mapping plans. So, three steps: name the barrier, identify the lever, and figure out the time-bound next step. Simple, right?
So if we go back to your example, Ro, we're going to name that barrier, which is I don't know how to ride a bike
I don't know how to ride a bike
yet.
yet.
And then when we start to identify the levers, right, what do we need in order to turn this yet into a yes, a now, I can, a success, a win? I think one of the easy, great places to start is that skill versus will? What's the issue? Is it that I don't know how? Is it that I don't want to? Is it that I'm afraid to try? Is it that I'm so uncomfortable because I don't think that I know how, right? That I'm not sure how to get started. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to put myself in the place to be able to have a safe environment to try. And so this oftentimes is like, this is where we need to spend the time. This is how we can identify those levers. What do you need? Do you need encouragement? Do you need, me to say it's okay for you to fall? It's okay for you to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you need direction? Okay, we're gonna hold the bike, keep it steady, one leg over, right? Do you need me to walk you through and give you direction? Do you need support? Do you need me to, hold the seat, walk down the driveway with you before I let go? Like, it's really understanding what are the mechanisms. And I think a lot of times when we think about teaching someone how to do something and developing a skill, or um, especially in the workplace, I think it's hard to understand how do I do that, because not every person needs the right thing, and sometimes they don't need you to show them how to do it. That might come off as, condescending, because it's not that they don't know how. It's really that they're uncomfortable in the space,
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason. And so we need to be creative, and we need to be willing to have that conversation to really uncover what the true lever is that's preventing somebody from being successful and having that win. Because it's not going to be the same for everyone.
Right. This is why it's so important to have the conversations, even thinking with the bike metaphor. And just so people know, I actually can ride a bike, a two-wheel and a motorcycle. So we're good. But I appreciate the encouragement. But the thing that I wanted to bring out with the skill versus will is, does the person have all of the necessary tools? If I was fearful of getting on a bike and I didn't have a helmet and elbow pads and knee pads, I would be very reluctant. Is it a resourcing issue? Does the person have all of the necessary tools that they need? Yeah, they may have the will, but they may lack some support. And support may look different for every person. So it can't be a carte blanche across the board approach to your entire team. It's going to be having these one-on-one conversations to understand the motivation and the drive that moves your team members, so that when you identify the levers, you really equip them to have the small wins and the forward progress.
Absolutely. I love that. When we think about time bound next steps, what does that mean? This is, I think, so critical to the value of yet. If you think about developing developing skills, developing somebody. I have someone who really needs to learn Excel, right? They're maybe in a finance role or something like that, and they happen to not know Excel, and it's kind of becoming an issue because I have to do their reports because they don't know how to use Excel. But learning Excel on a development plan is vague, and it's probably going to feel really overwhelming to that person who now is being told, not only do you have to learn the technical skill, but you also have to learn all the critical thinking that goes along with the technical skill. And then you have to also understand all of the application to your role. And how am I, as your leader, going to, enable, support, and encourage this? I think that's overwhelming for everyone. The person who needs to learn Excel, as well as the person who's, the manager who's responsible for like shepherding this development.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's what this looks like in the yet model. You don't know how to use Excel yet.
Yeah.
So this week, we're going to look at this one report that you usually run, or that I need you to run, and I'm going to walk you through how to do a pivot table. And then next week, I want you to try to do that pivot table on your own, and come back to me and let me know if you've got questions. And if we need to sit next to each other and do it together, we can. And then the week after that, when you do this other report, see, this one, we use it for something else. So this one, we're going to have to combine two data sets. So when we pull that next time, I'm going to show you how to do a VLOOKUP. And then the next time we run that, you can sit next to me if you need some help, but I want you to try to do it on your own. We'll make notes. And then at the end of the quarter, when it's time to do this other thing, I'm going to show you how to use data validation. And at the end of the year, when we do this other project, I'm going to show you how to run a macro. And so it's all these little bits and pieces. And so it's taking this one big thing of learning Excel and it's making it proximate and tangible. And you're building in all of the pieces, the technical skill and the critical thinking and the application, and making it relevant all within a safe, supported way that we can easily continue to scaffold and continue to build on. It's tangible for
Hmm.
both the employee as well as the leader who's responsible for shepherding some of this development.
And because we always hear a lot when we're working with our clients and partners, well, and they call us Rolena. We're one and the same person when we work together. We're actually like a
Got
hashtag.
a brand name.
Right. Uh, well, I don't have the time. What Elena just described is folded into a weekly or bi-weekly conversation that's probably already scheduled with your employee, and you're leveraging it to teach a skill and to give them access to a broader knowledge base in a safe space, fully supported, but then allowing them to experiment and come back the next week. We've all sat through trainings. We all know the best way to learn something is to do it. So this gives small opportunities without feeling like you have to know all of the shortcuts in Excel, all of the macros, the pivot tables, the VLOOKUPs, all of that stuff that can be very overwhelming. And maybe some people on the line right now going, what is a VLOOKUP? It's like I might need to go back and assess my Excel skills to see what I don't know yet, but it creates a forward movement that now I can build upon. So by the time the end of the year comes and we're running end of year reports, myself and my team member um, understands how to do it. Someone in the comments says that implies that the employee wants to learn Excel. How would we approach the employee? Oh, my chat went away. Let me get the rest of that question. How would we approach the employee if we feel they're not fully committed and they don't show self-motivation? A part of the yet reframe is kind of understanding what the hesitation is. Why are they feeling like they don't want to learn, especially if it's a requirement for their role? And understanding and clearly articulating the importance of Excel, how it can impact their work, how it can streamline their work and make their work easier. Excel is more than just lists. And this is just one example. So if they're not showing self-motivation as the leader, we need to find out what is the hesitation, what's the barrier. Um, and a lot of times we don't take into account people's past work experiences in other organizations where they may have been reprimanded for making a mistake and are now guarded because they don't want to do that again, or are fearful that if I mess up, then there will be repercussions. And it can create a sense of almost paralysis that I don't even want to try because if I mess up, the fear of failure is very overwhelming. And for some people, the fear of success is also overwhelming because now if I do a good job, you're going to ask me to do more. And there has to be a balance
Mm-hmm.
between the two, right, Elena?
Oh, absolutely. And the the other thing that comes to mind, especially with this question, is I think we find a lot of times that resistance to learning, especially in the systems and the technology space. Um, at the same time, at a macro level, like that's the place where many organizations are in constant state of change because technology and systems are constantly changing. And so we saw those stats way back in the beginning of this conversation that said employees do feel that ongoing learning really does help them navigate elements of change. And I think the yet piece helps make, if it's a macro change in your organization or if it's a micro efficiency we need in this one person, in this one person's role, and how they're doing their job, the yet model, the yet reframe still makes it tangible. You can do this same thing with a new system implementation at your organization.
Mhm.
this week we're going to go through, um, this part of the health record if you're implementing an EMR. And we're going to walk through how to write different kinds of notes together. And then next week, I want you to show me the notes that you did. And then we're going to talk about this report you can run. I'm obviously not super well versed in EMRs, but we can do the same thing. It's that time bound next step, and it's really turning it into like your own internal micro learning. Um, and you can do this with soft skills too. That's the
Oh,
other thing.
yes.
So if you're a leader and you have a manager who, isn't addressing employee performance issues the way that they need to be, we've got to name that as a barrier. We're not addressing employee performance issues the way that we need to be, and then identify those levers. Are you identifying the issue? Do you know how to identify the issue? Are you seeing the same problem that I'm seeing? Have you confirmed the expectations with this employee? Do you know how to have that conversation? Have you described the desired behavior or output or whatever is lacking? Um, and are you comfortable having that conversation? And then we get into the time bound next steps, which is, all right, so let's schedule a meeting with that employee. Let's have that conversation to set expectations. Let's set an observation window. How long are we going to give them to improve? Let's schedule the follow up, and then come and circle back with me. And so we can break it down into each of these little, we like to call them each of these little yet pieces. And as you hit each of those little milestones, those time bound next steps, you're making progress and learning toward that yet goal.
And I think your example with the soft skills is so important because a lot of times there are great intentions with trying to support team members who are having performance issues. But you and I have both experienced that managers sometimes are not fully equipped to have the uncomfortable conversations.
Mhm.
So having a small bite-sized track kind of makes it less overwhelming, and being able to have the support of their leader to say, okay, this is what I'm observing, making sure it's objective. Here's what I am planning to say, bouncing that idea off of someone. What you just outlined in those time-bound steps gives support not only to the employee with the performance issue, but also to the leader who is going to have these conversations. And a lot of times, what we see, or and I can only speak for myself in this one, what I see is there's a lack of follow up that happens. So people have these conversations, they set the expectations, and they just let people go on, but they don't readdress it to confirm that things are working appropriately. And if it's not, then it becomes a surprise in their next performance conversation instead of
Mhm.
dealing with it in real time with the small yet opportunities. It becomes a surprise for an individual sitting down for their semi-annual or annual review, and now they're not um, performing to the expectations of the organization, and it feels like they may be blindsided. Whereas in real time, I can have this conversation with you, we can address it, and making sure the follow-up is there will ensure that there's still this continuum of progress. The great thing about yet is it does not require perfection because the time bound is so immediate. This is not 30, 60, 90 days. This is literally, all right, what are we doing next week? What are we
Mhm.
doing 2 weeks from now? How do we need to adjust? So, yet as a superpower, and I absolutely love this graphic, is really giving time and strategy between you and your goal, but it's attainable enough that it doesn't feel so far off. It's almost like you're living in the power of what tomorrow brings. How can I do this differently tomorrow?
I love that row. And I think one of the most like common examples that just popped into my head for this is accountability. Use that word on a daily basis, right? You're not, she's not, he's not, they're not holding them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are it's because they don't know how. But
Mm-hmm.
this is the biggest opportunity. They're not being held accountable yet, because then we get to now talk about what does that look like and when and who and how, with the yet reframe. So if accountability is an issue in your organization, I would say this is something you can go back and you can implement today. Name that barrier. Accountability is the issue. Identify those levers. What do we actually need? Is this a skill or a will issue? Is on the employee or on the leader, whether from the one person who needs to be held accountable or the one who should be doing the accountabling account. We're gonna just
Good
move
one. I like
on.
that.
And then what do those time bound next steps look like? And this, I absolutely agree, Ro. The power here is in tomorrow,
Mhm.
by Friday, next week. It's making it so proximate, it's making it so tangible, it's making it so relevant.
It's truly a superpower. It really is. When we know someone is counting on us, it requires us to take action. Doesn't require us to be perfect because there's still space to kind of resolve it. Now, when we're trying to identify the yets, we have offered up some coaching prompts, some questions that leaders can ask and engage their team or their direct report in kind of understanding where the barriers lie. And sometimes this is just us asking things like, what's getting in the way of other projects? Find out what's going on with your employees, what's on their plate, because sometimes people are taking on work that may not be productive. It's just busy and it couldn't be put on the back burner. Maybe it's not urgent, maybe it's not important, but they feel like it's something that they need to do to show that they're still engaged, but it's not the best use of their time. So finding out what's getting in the way of other projects. Is there a communication challenge? Are they waiting on information from somebody else? Is there a breakdown in, cross-departmental function or systems or knowledge transfer? Finding out what's happening will really help you identify the next small step to take in resolving that.
I love this next one.
Hmm.
How comfortable are you moving this forward? I love it because I think it absolutely speaks to skill versus will, right? We people don't tend to do things that they're not really comfortable in, or they tend to not do them well. And so this is a great opportunity, if you're finding yourself in a situation where you really need someone to take that next step or have that hard conversation or execute on this next phase. And you're sensing, not maybe not resistance, but like apprehension or anxiety, which is completely fine. Use that as the gauge. How comfortable are you moving this forward? And if they say not very, we know that that's now a not yet.
That's
And
exactly.
so then what can we do? What support, encouragement, resource can I provide to give you the confidence to move that forward successfully?
And a lot of times it's allowing people and giving them the space to realize that if they make a mistake, 9 times out of 10, it's okay.
Mhm.
It's the ability to be able to learn. In learning, we're not always going to get it right every time. We are going to make mistakes. And it creates an environment where if I know I can make a mistake and be coached, I'm more inclined to keep trying. I think my
Right.
other favorite one on this list is what's the one thing on your plate you are avoiding? We
Hmm.
all know. That one thing that is on our to-do list, it's like if I can just keep pushing this off and pushing this off and pushing this off, I will. And the question is, why are you avoiding it? Is it because you feel it's too time consuming? Then if that's the case, how about we break this down into smaller pieces? If it's requiring you to engage with an employee that you don't necessarily get along with, sometimes that is the barrier. It's the working relationships. Why don't you want to work with Susan? And I apologize if there's a Susan on the line. This is it. No way directed to you in any way, shape, or form. Random name call. And it's having the conversations of how do we get from, well, I don't like to work with Susan. I don't like to work with Susan yet. There's a way to find commonality. Because if we're all in an organization, there's something there that connects us. Especially if you're working in a mission-driven organization, your accountant may not be the favorite person to like your program officers, but there is a need for both individuals in an organization. And when you can help support that working relationship as a leader to help them find the commonality and why they need each other to excel in their roles, then if there's avoidance happening on your teams, now you've identified the barrier and can put the small yet steps in place to try to help build it. Is everybody going to be best friends at the end of the day? No, that's not what we're saying, but we can create a plan in small steps that will help rebuild the trust personally and operationally so that people can do their jobs without it feeling contentious or avoiding people because they think that there's something else going on or they've had a past experience that they haven't resolved or there's conflict that has been festering that no one's addressing. So it calls into all of those things that we see as challenges in our workspace.
That's so true. That's so true, Ro. I also think though that what's interesting is this last coaching prompt. What does success look like to you? I've seen that be combined with what is one thing on your plate you're avoiding, because it's not uncommon for someone to understand what success needs to look like. I understand what the output is or the outcome is supposed to be, but I don't understand how to make that happen. I don't understand how to get there. And so, since I know what it is, but I don't know how to navigate that, I'm going to avoid it
Hmm.
because it's challenging and it's going to impact my confidence. And so I agree with you that, like, what is that one thing on your plate that you're avoiding is such great insight into opportunities for relationship development, for rebuilding trust. I think it also is going to improve trust just between the employee and the supervisor.
Agreed.
The fact that I recognize that there's something on your plate that you're avoiding, but I'm coming at this as a, how do I help you bridge that gap? How do I help you pick this up and move it forward instead of chastising you for avoiding it in the first place? Um, and I think a lot of times it's because employees don't know. I don't know what to do next. I don't know how to get from A to B. And so it's a great opportunity to break that down into those super tangible time bound steps, to talk about resources, to talk about support. I've always said my least favorite, absolute least favorite, like supervisory phrase is, let me know what I can do to help because I don't know. If I knew, I would ask. And this is turning that into a superpower. This is
Yeah.
coming at it by saying, let's figure out together what I can do to help. It's not
Hmm.
on you. The burden is not on you to know what help you need so that you're not responsible for self-driving your own learning and development, right? We're sharing that burden. We're taking some of that burden back, um, by walking into this as partners.
Exactly. It's like the road trip where you have a good co-pilot and you switch out every so often so nobody has to do all of the driving. You can tell
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with travel right now. It's bikes, cars, it's a lot going on right now. Uh, but here are we call this the yet menu, the yet plan. And this would be very overwhelming if you had to do all of these steps. So our recommendation is to look at the list and identify maybe 4 or 5 things to do over the next 2 weeks. Understanding what the goal is. What 2 strategies will I try? Who's my accountability partner? And what is the first tiny step that I can take within 48 hours? It's almost like an a la carte menu. Pick what works for you depending on the person's motivation, and really allow them to build the plan that's best suited for them in conjunction with support from the leader. So this collaborative conversation, you show up at your check-in and you have the menu, and we put it in the chat for you as a PDF. uh Utilize this, and it's almost like, I'll take this and this, and hold this for now,
I'd like
but
to order up a goal, hold the check-in.
there it is, order up a goal, hold the
Order up a
check-in.
goal, hold the check-in. Um, I love it. I love it. That's the yet menu because there's pieces of this that for me personally as a learner that I don't resonate with me. And so it's not going to be meaningful. It's not going to be engaging to set it as an expectation for holding me accountable or holding you accountable to supporting me in my learning journey. So I love thinking of it as a menu. Your teams are all unique, your working relationships, your working styles are all unique. The cadences at which you come together are all unique. And so I think, right, organizing this in a way that you can pick what's going to be meaningful and pick what's going to support progress. And the rest is there for the next person. Side fries.
High prize. And the thing is, you can reuse this menu as many times, several different ways. I didn't do the math with all of the possible combinations, but exponentially, it's an endless set of possibilities to help move forward progression. It's a great tool. And we love a good hashtag. So share your plans, take screenshots or copy your plans, to share with your accountability. Use the power of yet if you're sharing it on social media to inspire other people. Hey, I'm on a learning journey. I'm on a development journey. I'm taking it one step at a time. Hashtag power of yet. Let us see what you're doing. We want to know. We want to see it. We know that it works because we both have operated in consulting this way and working this way. The power of yet has moved us through a lot of transformative spaces, things that I never imagined that I personally would be doing. I have now been asked to speak in multiple places. At the top of the year, I never would have imagined that this would be kind of the trek that I would be on. However, I have found that this is a great way to connect with people, to do webinars like this with colleagues. I'm speaking at a summit on Friday. I'm doing Disrupt HR next week. But all of those things have come from the power of yet,
Ro
literally.
and I have learned so much from each other in the last number of years. And
Yeah.
so I know a lot of our examples during this conversation have been about employees and supervisory relationships, but this is also such a valuable model for peer to peer learning. The two
Hmm.
of us have grown by leaning into each other and leaning into each other's yets and holding each other accountable to those yets. And so definitely don't discount it as a huge lever for peer to peer learning too.
Most definitely. I'm appreciative. I'll just say it on recording.
And if nothing else, I mean, I think it's so empowering. It's empowering to be able to make development, right? Talent development, skill development, growth tangible for not only your employees, but also your managers, right? They want to develop their employees. They want to make their teams more powerful. They want to enable and engage their employees to bring their full selves to work and to put their full selves into the work of the team. And so making it such less daunting. It's not this huge road, this long road filled with all these obstacles because you don't have a formal plan, a formal program, a huge catalog of online learning. We can empower them using just these tools. And so I think it just creates so much more partnership and transparency and, trust and accountability in that development process.
Agreed. I agree. So, as we wrap up today, we want to leave you with some key takeaways. We've learned that yet is powerful language. Just the small shift in how we say things creates the growth mindset, replacing I can't with I can't yet opens up space for growth, for strategy and time instead of self-judgment. It's very important, though, that we take the time to identify the barriers. We have to be able to name the thing. What is the challenge? What is the obstacle that we're facing? What is the skill set that's missing? What's the soft skill or communication challenge that we're having? And then make it tangible. Be intentional about making it tangible and making it approximate to the employee, to the leader, to the manager, to all parties concerned. What is the thing that we can do in the immediate future, tomorrow, next week, 2 weeks from now, compared to let's give this 6 months to see how it plays out. We can take the small steps and see. And as we stated, action beats perfection. We're doing something. The
Mm-hmm.
yet reframe will allow you to take action immediately. You all can go to meetings this afternoon and ask prompts and questions to identify some of the challenges that your teams are experiencing, or have a conversation with your leader and use the prompts in the other direction to understand what the expectations for you are as well and develop your yets. Take the menu, pick 4 or 5 things, put it into action and move forward. Elaine, anything else you want to add?
Just that, I mean, thank you all so much for joining us this morning. And hope this gives you, another tool in that toolbox to unlock potential. We always appreciate you joining us here at Exude Human Capital, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for participating with us.